this is Christina Dam, and this is Liberate the Podcast, where we educate, motivate, inspire, and liberate your consciousness. So we have some of the most interesting, unique, and amazing meditations, I think, in the world. I mean, we have past life regression meditations, guided hypnosis meditations, Akashic record meditations, as well as healing meditations. Our meditations are pretty cool. And they're not just about stillness of mind and peace and sit there, I mean, we have those too. Don't get me wrong, but these are about meditations that are going to shift and change, and you're going to walk out of there feeling lighter, freer, healed, and even getting guidance and insight. So come down, experience one of our meditations. They're pretty badass.
Welcome to Deep Cuts. It's been a little while since we've put out an episode of Deep Cuts. So my name is Rebekah. This is Alan, who works at the shop, Alan Clancy. And then he's also brought in Lapis Tiger, his colleague and friend and creative partner. And we want to talk today about Mary Magdalene, which is a really super lit topic right now. This was all, we weren't planning on me being a part of this conversation necessarily, but I'm stoked that I am because I have all the questions.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
So before we start though, what do you do here at the shop? Just let everyone know.
Oh, I do healing work. I do tarot. I do clairvoyant work, reiki healings. So I've been with them, I think about 4 or 5 years now I've been with you guys. But recently I was in the other store in Los Feliz, but now I'm over here in Hollywood. So yeah, I love it here.
Yeah. And let's hear about you.
I'm a director, writer. I'm also an actress, model, and hostess. I've been directing and doing film production for over 12 years now, and created a TV show that I got Netflix and 2 other major studios, and a producer of an Academy Award nominated film, Interested, as well. Oh. So it's an action mystery thriller that's actually deeply spiritual. That's one of my big projects that I'm hoping to get produced sometime soon.
Boom, let's call that in. Amen. Yes.
Yeah.
And so it is. Well, that's amazing. And my name's Rebekah. So if you've never seen the podcast before, I'm on a couple other episodes. I'm here at Liberate. I do different types of energy healing. I'm an astrologer. I'm a musician, and kind of work in any sort of combination with all of those. And I help out with the podcast and the media here too. So anyway, I'm really stoked because the divine feminine has been on the rise, and it's almost to a point of it's like cliche to talk about that in the New Age community now, but I am really, really curious about Mary Magdalene, and you guys have an interesting project because you've written a whole screenplay on it. That's right. So we can't give everything away because you got to check out the screenplay once it's all popping. Right. But who was Mary Magdalene?
Can I tell you how it began?
Yes.
So I wrote it about 14 years ago.
Okay.
And then I got ill. I wrote it here in Los Angeles, and I got ill from a poisoning. So I had to go back to Australia. So I thought while I was there, I'd try to have it made. So I took it to Buzz Luhrmann, who did...
wow, yeah.
What was the movie?
Moulin Rouge.
Moulin Rouge.
Yeah.
And they liked it. But Australia doesn't have a lot of money to make big films. Basically, they used to, but they don't have it anymore. Most films have come from America to other countries with their own money. So we said, keep with the script is great. So that was positive. But you know what I did? I came back here to Los Angeles and I stayed in a drawer for 10 years. I just didn't pull it out again. And I had also done a painting of Mary Magdalene about a week or 2 before I came back here. The same thing. I did the painting. I didn't like it. So I rolled it up, and I usually like my work, but I didn't like it. So I rolled it up and put it under the bed where I live now. So I was reading a new book on Mary Magdalene about halfway through. I just got an inkling and a voice telling me, I've got to go just get that script out of a drawer. I didn't know where it was, so I asked Spirit, where is it? They said, 4th drawer, ba-da-da. So I went there, and it was exactly where they said. So I got it and put it in front of my altar. Then I went sat down on my couch. And then the voice said, well, what about the painting? Oh, I'm not going to look at that. Why would I look at it? I'd never like that. It says, you got to go get it. It's quite large. It would be about half the size of that wall. It's huge. And so I stood there like almost shaking, actually, because I didn't know what I was going to look at. So I remember when I painted her, she was black. And I didn't like that either. And I thought, that isn't quite right. But I'd forgotten that the day before I got on the plane, I painted it a dark brown. I forgot all about it. I was like moving back to America, and I was better then. So anyway, I started to unroll it, and it's so. I think I showed you. Did I show you the painting?
You did show me a picture of it on your phone. It's stunning.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah,
And the
it
stained
is.
glass kind of melting in the background. It's very Chagall, and she's also in an urn. She's sitting inside an urn where she used to anoint Jesus or people that were ill. So I looked at the thing, and I was taken aback at it because how beautiful it was. So that started me going, I think I have to do this again. So I was going to read it, and I thought I'd met Stephanie. We've known each other the past few years.
Lapis.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw Lapis. Yeah, Lapis. Lapis Tiger.
Yes.
Sorry. I called her and said, because she's done writing, she's done directing, I said, why don't you have a look at it? Because I'm almost afraid to look at it. And she read it and she said, oh my God, all the bones are here. It's so good. So then she took it and we locked ourselves basically in her room, my room. And for 2 weeks, we wrote the rest of the film.
Yeah.
So I've been able to get her perspective on it, my perspective. So we're kind of excited about it. Yeah.
That's amazing.
How it evolved.
But what inspired you to write it in the first place? So you must have you did a painting and you wrote the script. So there's a connection to her
I was
energy.
working in hospitals for people with AIDS.
Yeah.
And so I was working around death a lot. And I was with a Reiki group. I just first learned Reiki. So I think the healing thing interests me. So I was reading a little more about Jesus and Asui, who they say was Christian and studied Jesus, which is actually incorrect now. We found out. Actually, he was a Buddhist.
Who was it?
Asui, who invented Reiki.
Oh, right, of course.
Yeah, they've always thought, but that's kind of not the correct story. They found out recently he's actually Buddhist.
Wow.
And he learned his healing qualities from Buddhism.
Okay.
And we thought it was Jesus. So that's been corrected in the past few years. Isn't that interesting? So there's always a story in something. But anyway, I decided that I wanted to read Mary Magdalene and see what I could find. So what I could find there, which is 13, 40 years ago, there's quite a few books out, but not what we have recently, because we've discovered now her actual words, what were discovered in urns in three different countries, correct? I think it's three different countries.
It's like 3 different locations because we were reading articles about that. And what happened was that these 3 were considered copies of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, but they all had the same number of pages torn out from every single one.
They're all missing.
Yeah, so the first, I think it was the first 6 pages were torn out, and there's a middle section where 4 pages were torn out too, where Jesus Christ actually said something, an answer to a very important question, and the rest of it was
And they just rip it out.
It was just the 4 pages were gone in the middle, and then it goes back to what he was saying. So they find it strange that all these 3 had the same number of missing pages.
Of course.
So that really intrigued us. We're like, okay, well, there's definitely something going on. There's a lot of lost history there that we felt was we don't know, probably intentionally left out by the church, given that women back then weren't allowed to really preach or be on the same status of men, which we obviously all knew. Whereas Mary Magdalene, she was doing something that very much, I think the generations now would appreciate, is that she was considered a modern woman back then. She was doing things that most women weren't allowed to do, but she did it.
That's amazing. What do you think? So the pages that were torn out were parts of her gospel and her teachings?
Yes, and what she wrote about what Jesus said to her. So there's literally where there was a question that was asked to Jesus Christ, and Jesus answers it, and right when he's about to reveal the rest of the words, it's gone.
They're all gone.
They're gone. So for 4 pages, and they know it's all missing. They're like, what? And then it just goes back suddenly. And it seems bizarre that whatever Jesus said was obviously very important. And we felt it's something that the world needed to hear, especially nowadays with what's been going on. That it's kind of sad that something that can really help the world was kind of missing actually from those few pages.
Especially as we know in the feminine, it was taken out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it must have been pretty triggering for a lot of people if they went through all that trouble to make sure that it didn't come out. So, what do you know? What was said? Like, because there is some of the gospel that's been. It's funny. So I read some of it briefly and forgot all about it and would have checked it out if I knew I was talking about this today, but I didn't. So can you fill us in on like some of what do you think the core message of the teachings of Mary or the Gospel of Mary Magdalene that is available right now?
Well, if you look at the words that you have, what would it be? Say we have 10 different things she talks about, subjects she talks about, but it sounds exactly as we talk today. So it doesn't sound biblical at all. So it sounds like a woman who really knows what she's talking about, to find your own pure self and don't find religion.
Wow.
So what we learn, what we see in the Bible and all that says we have to follow that, she doesn't do that at all. She's the opposite. She go find self, love yourself. So everything is about curing yourself internally. And it's all the things we know in kind of the story we have now here. She knew way back then. Can you imagine how she was disliked? Because there was a number of disciples that didn't like her. We do have those. Those we do know, because a lot of the disciples did mention her. You know, he loved you more than us. They said that a lot. And what Peter said something too to her. Remember, it was quite...
Yeah, he said something, and this was, this might shock people, but it did show the views of societies back then, where he says, could it be possible that Jesus, would tell her things, a woman, that he wouldn't even tell us? And that it was like an offense to him, because he obviously considered women probably on a lower status, and he felt he just couldn't imagine Jesus would do something like that. Whereas Jesus, we all knew, did not see people that way. I mean, he didn't care if you were rich or poor. He didn't care if you were a thief or you were somebody who was a saint. He treated everybody with love. So of course he was as the same thing when it comes to men and women. He didn't see the gender. He didn't treat them with gender parity. He treated them all equally.
Yeah, I think it was Peter that he called her a liar.
Yeah, he basically said he didn't really believe her. And it took another disciple to say, well, who are we to question her? If we knew Jesus, really loved her most out of everyone, why should we question what she's saying when she says she witnessed, Christ's resurrection? And so it was very interesting to read these things that have been left out of a lot of Christian history and out of the Bible too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, like anyone that's clicked on this episode is probably aware already that she's historically been painted as a prostitute.
Which was made up.
She's not a prostitute, guys. She is not.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right. So,
not even written down.
Can you say a little bit more about who she was? Because you're saying she was a modern woman. She was a spiritual teacher. She was, you think, one of Christ's disciples. And do you think she was his wife or married to him? Or I'm just curious. What's your take?
Do you want to answer that, or should go ahead?
So many questions.
We can both answer.
I don't think she was married to him, because what we have people have to understand about this relationship between Mary Magdalene and Jesus, it's a love on a higher consciousness. It's a love where because she was still also his disciple, and at the same time he did love her more than anyone else. But I think when people try to put it in the sense of just marriage, it kind of takes away the depth of the relationship, how it's more than just what we consider, more than what earthly things are, because I think when, I'm not saying it's bad to romanticize the relationship.
Sure.
But I think that leaves out a big portion of the relationship where it's really about the love between God and us, and about the deep spiritualness of how what real love is, rather than just saying it's just a marriage. Now, for her, I do feel that we feel that she was very much still his disciple, and she loved him very dearly. And it's people kind of go to extremes like, well, maybe she was just a whore, or maybe she was just she's his wife. But there's another aspect of it. This is a very deep soul relationship, and I think this is where we really wanted to focus on that, what her relationship was to him, and also who this woman was, because she wasn't. I know a lot of recent films. There was a Mary Magdalene film that came out recently.
Yeah, there was a recent one made in Europe I went to see last year.
Oh yeah, I want to see it. I didn't see it yet. No. Yours will be better.
I don't think it's very popular. Joaquin Phoenix played Jesus.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and maybe that helps because when you look at it, everybody's in brown and potato sacks, and so there's camels and it's all brown. Well, the more you start to study Mary Magdalene and Jesus was studied in the universities, if you want to call them that. She also did that kind of. She's super intelligent, and guess what? They're both rich.
Yeah,
she came from a very rich family. It's kind of like what? So when we do, I can give this part away. When we do the film, she's going to be in beautiful clothes. It's not all this kind of rags they're wearing.
No more potato sacks.
No more potato sacks. And a lot of the movies today focus on sadness. Yet even when as you know, you do spiritual work, as you raise your consciousness, sadness begins to kind of go away, and you look at sadness differently. So therefore, people that what with the last Temptation Christ and all those things, it's all so heavy. And he's going to die, and everything. The whole movies are usually crash down, and we're not going to do that, because that's not true. Because when you've studied your spirituality, even pain is felt differently than normal. Because I went through the pain of all the poison I had, but the only thing that brought me out of it is my own spirituality. Yes, the pain was there, but I believed in, if you want to call God or Goddess, when it's the highest point, it does pull you out of the thing. It's like it's a fishing line. It does get you out. If you don't have that, you can go into that.
It's really hard.
So Mary Magdalene to us is a really a woman who laughs. He laughs. They're kind of missing that point. So therefore, the movie's incredibly beautiful. It's colorful.
Wow.
We're going to do it differently. Yeah.
That's amazing, and actually so interesting to me, because it lines up, I think, a lot with a lot of other spiritual teachings that we kind of tap into in the New Age community, right? So
look at India; it's all flowers and skipping around, and they're burning candles, and they're throwing colors on each other. That actually is spirituality.
Yeah,
it's not all sad. You go in a church, and it's kind of like it's so sad, and they forget the Bible.
It's like somber.
And you're somber, and it's the same story. You've got to bring all that happiness into you, which as you raise your consciousness, that's automatically inside you anyway.
And that's her teaching. So you guys are actually actualizing her teaching through this piece of art.
It's in her words. Yeah. It's all written in all her words. There's no sadness in the words.
Yeah. What is if anybody wants to go read the Gospel of Mary Magdalene's been found, how do they find that?
Oh, it's pretty. You can Google it. There's a number of books. There's about 8 books out right now. The more recent, of course, have more information.
Okay. Are there any resources you like that you would, other than your film, which once that comes out?
I wish I remembered. Do you remember the lady's name?
I forgot her name. It's a red book.
There is a new book out.
Yeah, she wrote about Mary Magdalene, and then she actually uses quotes from the Gospel of Mary Magdalene.
Beautiful.
But what she does also is that she takes some of the words from the other disciples that were not included, that basically supported what Mary Magdalene said,
and
cool. What she was.
And then she does a psychology, but all together.
Yeah,
that's helpful.
So that's a new book that just came out.
Yeah, and because it shows that this is not just we're not just basing it on Mary Magdalene's words. We're basing it on there were the other disciples who actually had words that supported what she was saying. So historians actually saw that they were in alignment with what was talked about, which just gives it more of that validity and credibility, which you felt a lot of it was taken away from her.
Of course.
But we're saying, hey, look, it's not just her saying this. The other disciples were saying what she was saying too, and supporting
backing
her.
up the claims.
Yeah,
backing it up.
And theirs was squashed out too, where they talk about her. There's little black lines with. It's no different than what we see today in government. There's things just squashed out.
Everybody has an agenda. So obviously,
it's always been.
Do you think that it was just like a thing about women? Why she was so, I guess, mitigated? Maybe not the word, but stuffed down. Do you think there was anything else why those scriptures would have been left out of? It's just women, or it threatened the whole religious structure at the time, or
I would say it definitely threatened the power of the church, because it wasn't just because she was a woman. I know that was a big part of it. When we were reading the words of what she was saying, what Jesus told her, and even with the other disciples who were supporting what she said, one of the things that, and I think a lot of people understand this with Christianity and Catholicism, is that they like to use guilt. They like to use fear to believe in God. I remembered once when I went to London, and there was a church there, and right on the wood, the first thing I see is fear God. And I thought, why would you say that? That is not a great way to invite people into your church, but that was the first thing, fear God. And but the words that they talked about it basically hints that there were things that could potentially take away the power of the church, where you don't have to go to the church to be with God.
Right.
You don't have to do that. And this was like a lot of, it wasn't just her words. I think I don't know if it was the Dead Sea Scrolls. There were other evidence found where they were starting to say things like that, where, a church may be just made of stones and wood, but at the end, God is inside you, and stuff like that. We all know from history that the church was very powerful, and the kings had to listen to them. So to say things that were basically saying, well, you don't have to go through church to get to God, you can imagine how people in higher powers would feel reading that, and they probably wouldn't want that publicized to the people that they are trying to control.
Yeah. Boom.
And they also, there was a lot of stained glass of her all over Europe. And
really? Is that what inspired your painting?
Oh, you know what? I didn't think that was a very good thing.
Because you said there was...
I did that because I just thought I wanted stained glass, but I never did think that. Thank you. Wow, you're psychic. I would have, wouldn't I?
How funny is that?
Thank you for pinpointing that.
No problem.
So there were many stained glass of her, many churches of her name, especially in France. Everywhere there's churches of Mary Magdalene, France and in England.
Really? That's surprising to me, but
Specifically France, majorly.
So actually, sorry to interrupt, but I'm just, as a little background, so I was exposed to Christianity as a child, but not super consistently. And so there's like a lot of basic things as a Westerner that most people might know that I don't know about, but that does surprise me that she would have been a central figure in any church because she was labeled as a prostitute. So
they say that, and France says it, that she, after Jesus was crucified, the Romans went after all the other disciples and killed a number of them because they started preaching, and so they say she escaped on a boat. There are kind of paintings of her in different galleries of her in a boat, and so they say she escaped to France, and in France she's known more than anybody. So, and they say her bones are in different churches. So also in England. So she traveled quite extensively, somewhat what they say, preaching her own masses and giving the Eucharist, and they hated that. The church hated that. Yeah.
Sure. Well, I guess it makes sense because she was, even if she was branded as a prostitute, she was obviously loved by Christ.
Yes.
So any sort of like tangible connection or historical connection to Christ, I can see why they would maybe revere that and keep her bones in wherever they were.
Yeah, they parade her skull around in one of the cities, not cities, it's a village more so, of her every year. That they have the skull and it's in a glass case, and they all parade around. It's done every year, and millions of people go down there to watch it. Yeah, interesting, isn't it? And then, of course, later on, the church destroyed most of the stained glass. They went and smashed them all up in the churches, but they couldn't do them all. There's definitely quite a few still left. Wow. Yeah, and she's always represented holding an egg.
What's the
symbolism? Which is the beginning of life.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
She's a very important figure that we really want to bring forwards non-religiously. Specifically, the movie is not religious. It's also, like I said, it's very colorful, and also a person, like I said, who actually fits into today. But there are always people in those times, even in Hinduism or different religions, or you can say Jesus was ahead of their times mentally or subconsciously. Naturally, people go, "What did you say?" And so she was one of those people. She was way ahead of it, and he appreciated her quite a lot. So I think it's more so we just want to put a light on her. Yeah, and we have an actress we're interested in India too. We've already contacted her, a very famous Indian actress who's perfect for the role, who is very spiritual. We know all about it.
That's so exciting. What's the plan for the film? Do you guys have like a timeline of, or you're still shopping it around, or?
Right now we're still shopping it around.
You're interested.
Yeah. If you guys are interested,
you're
please let us know.
If you're interested. So how do they actually contact you? We'll put this at the end too, but.
Sure. Well, you can contact us here. That's quite easy, isn't it?
Yes. But do you guys have like where would they reach you directly? Because you can always reach them through the shop, liberatehollywood.com.
And do you want to do the Lapis Tiger for you?
Yeah, I can do do my email, but we could have one.
Instagram,
yeah. Instagram is good.
You want to do that?
We'll tag everything in the notes, but just for anybody that's like listening and driving right now.
That's a good idea.
just reach out to Liberate
Please
Hollywood
do.
or call
Yeah.
Liberate Hollywood, and we'll put you in touch with them. But
The director I really like is Guillermo del Toro. Of course, I love his films. And we do have a few sections here and there that are kind of dark. And we do use the Angel of Death in it, which we will do. So he's very good at doing that kind of thing. So we have written to him too. To see, because I thought his Shape of Water was incredible. All his movies are great, Pan's Labyrinth, but he would know how to do the visual. Also, India would know how to do the visuals because they're very good at it.
And another thing about Guillermo is that we felt that he had such great compassion for women, especially strong women. I mean, you know, all his films, Shape of Water, and Pan's Labyrinth. I mean, he had such strong female characters, and he knows how to capture their soul, their essence of who they really are. Wow. That is different from what a lot of male directors do. He was definitely someone who we knew he would do this character justice. He would film her in a way with great compassion to really show, you know, who she truly is on camera in film, and add in the flair that we felt was a great style for the film. That is not going to be anything like Mel Gibson's The Passion of Christ.
Which I haven't
Nothing
seen.
like that.
I haven't seen. I'm like curious, but I don't like torture-y things.
Yeah,
I
it's,
can't.
I know, like a lot of previous films focuses on, you know, Jesus being hammered on a stake. Basically, that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
But that's not the whole point. And again, I think they tend to do that just because of the whole guilt thing. Like, this guy died for you and was tortured to death for you.
The intensity.
Yeah, the intensity of it. It just felt like it was going with the stereotypical way of how the church did things. But we're showing something that's more on it based off a deeper spirituality, love, and love for the world that we feel this world needs right now, especially with everything that's going on. So that is going to distinguish this film from all the other films that's been done in the past on Jesus and even Mary Magdalene.
If you look at all the paintings of Mary Magdalene, because there's been so many paintings of her, she's all on her knees, and he's here and she's there, at his knees. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like she was equal to him. So therefore, why is that? Why do or even the painters do that? We're not going to do that. We're not going to do this with this film. She's not going to be on her knees.
Yeah. That's really exciting. So there is a book, that's why I had my phone here so that I could actually just reference this book.
Yes.
Okay. This is the moment. Rituals in Sacred Stone, which is a book about Mary Magdalene, and it's a fiction, and now I don't want to waste time looking for the name of the author, but it's their Rituals in Sacred Stone, but I only got halfway through it, but they did paint it as this big romance, and but they did paint her as his equal, like his feminine counterpart. So I'm curious what your take is on that, because you did say you think she still was his disciple. Right? Do you think that she also was his teacher, or?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a very good question.
Of course, of course, I believe yes. Yeah, she was his teacher.
I feel that.
So was Mother Mary.
Yeah.
There's a triangle with those three, where they were learning from each other. I don't think I think there's something to all that. There's reasons everybody in your life. You meet your boyfriend. Why did you meet him? There's a reason you have to learn something negative or positive. I think between that triangle, basically, I'll just use those three. Wow, what a powerhouse between those three to get what they needed to do energetically, to bring that energy into this planet. So actually, I believe she helped teach him. Yes.
Can I ask you? I
believe they loved each other. You can take that however you like to take it. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
matter. If you believe they were married, or you believe they were lovers or were sexual, that's your belief. It's fine. But we will. I don't think we need to do it. You can say they were married. It doesn't matter. It's fine with us.
Yeah.
But we just want to present the woman as who she really is, and I think we pretty much, with her words, we pretty much got it down. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And so you said before, her sense of find yourself outside of religion and find love. Is that how you would sum up, you think, her teaching? I know that's really trite sounding just coming out of my mouth right now, but
no,
I mean, I'm curious.
That's correct.
That's actually, because a lot of it is, going within. So a lot of people, it's not just focusing on the external world. It's focusing on deep within, inside us, what is buried in our soul and has always been there in our hearts all along. And it's not just her. I mean, Jesus was also saying these things, and this is where it's a lot of it was just left out of Christianity and history.
Right.
That Mary Magdalene summed up a lot of things that also Jesus also said in taught her too. So it's I think it's very important for people to think nowadays, because I know like now strong women are coming up more prominent in mainstream media. We hear it all the time in the news and the stories we're writing. But we also wanted to point out that it's not just about this is a strong woman. This is somebody who is a very loving woman who possibly understood Jesus on a deeper level than other people did as well. And at the same time, she is a modern woman back then. And I know a lot of women nowadays would appreciate that. But we wanted to give a very fair representation of who is she outside of the labels that people try to basically pigeonhole into that are not, that doesn't really capture who she is, or is just completely inaccurate.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot that's, like we said, there's so much that's come up now, and especially in like the current climate of like the Me Too movement, and there is like a female empowerment movement happening now, whether or not you're one of the quote unquote spiritual people who's thinking of that as a resurgence of the divine feminine. So I'm also curious what you guys think about the divine feminine having been like back in times past, like in more balance, and then do you think that it like went out of balance for like a few thousand years and is coming back? That's what I've heard and read. I wish I could source that. Totally unprepared for this interview. But you know, it's like it was there, but it really had to be, it was squashed out, but it was still there, and it was still present, right? So she still existed. She still like was a person who did give those teachings even in the climate of total male authority. And then so now it's really interesting that all this time later it's popping back up. And why do you think that is? Do you think it's just because people are more interested because that's already on some sort of like social trajectory?
Look at America right now, and look at the government.
That's what I'm saying. Do you think that's...
I mean, if you look at Congress, it's all men. And then no black men, no gay men. I mean, look at it. So where's the women? So something has to energetically come forwards. So what we're written is to for that subject. What would I say? In the Arabic world too, and Africa, where they do to women. It's always been, but it all depends on your consciousness, how you think, though. I think everything's already here. I don't believe it. I don't believe it dies. It might be in a rock or something.
That's what I'm saying. Is like it was there.
The energy's always there. It's just whether we have the consciousness to wake up for it. So I believe since when if you want to call it darkness right now, if there's a big cloud coming over, the way the world's, you know, the ice is melting, all that stuff, something is causing us to look at the feminine and to look at that energy you're talking about, to bring it out of ourselves, which Mary Magdalene's talking about. Bring that out of yourself, and then that will change. One person can change a whole world, you know. Wherever Jesus walked, all the flowers would bloom miles away. They even said that about Buddha. Buddha could walk along and all the trees would bend. And it's how it is when you love that much. It changes everything around it. It changes the animals. Everything changes. So we have a responsibility, and that's what she's talking about. Does that answer it?
Yeah, it does. It's funny. I did an interview like on my old podcast years ago with somebody who's was really interested in Mary Magdalene, and she's always talking about Jesus' teachings. So I can't reference the exact source, but she said that Jesus said, I come not to teach you, but to love you. Yeah. And that really stuck with me, and I was like, wow, that's it.
Because eventually, as we know, by studying even Hinduism, you eventually have to let go of your mind. And you know that when you do readings. First of all, we have to let go of our minds to talk to somebody. Then we can get somewhere. If I do a court case, I've got to let go of what I think of that person. Even if they've done something terrible, I have to let it go and then be pure about it and then give the best answers I can. Of course, most psychiatrists come to see us because they can eventually do with the book, but they can't go into if you want to call a third eye or intuition, they can't go there. So we can move it into that. Where was I going with that?
I think we were just talking about, the power of love ultimately as Celine Dion. So beautifully belted that back in the early 90s. Celine Dion. The power of love. But song too. Yeah. So,
it is.
I mean,
it's true.
It sounds
love
trite,
of self.
But like if you want to get down to it, that's ultimately what your story and what your movie is about, and what her lifetime was about. And his
it may sound corny, but if you don't find love within yourself, how are you ever going to find in your relationship or your religion? Or you've got to love you, and that's an inner work, a lot of inner work. Yeah.
Do you think that?
And then you go with the brain. Because the brain is a problem. It's the computer to get you there and can give you all your ego things you want, but eventually it has to slide away. So real miracles can then change your life. Real miracles can only happen when you let go of that. If I have a canvas and like I said, I just did a painting recently, and I had the canvas. I was staring at what do I do with that? Well, I'm forcing my mind. Maybe it isn't. And then when I let go, a piece of music comes on and it gives me the answer. So I let go, and then the universe will provide the real miracle, the real thing you're supposed to do.
Yeah, amen to that.
Amen.
I'm like completely there with you.
You right?
And totally. I'm curious if you think their teachings were basically the same, or if she had like a different sort of angle or a different approach, like the core teachings were the same?
I would say core teachings, yes, but it's important to know is that, when we come to this planet, we meet people who change us and we change them. And I think people forget that, Jesus is affected by the people. There's people he was supposed to meet who would change him and impart lessons and that he would probably learn just as he's teaching it to others, because we're all interconnected. And people tend to forget about that part. So it's, I wouldn't say that she had a different method of teaching necessarily, but we felt that she definitely made an impact on him. For him to view her differently from how he saw his other disciples, that he told her things that he didn't tell anyone else. Yeah. Which means he saw, there were things that he knew that was very special and unique about this woman on a deeper, loving level. And I think that's very important for people to basically learn and finally accept and know that, yes, they're... we play up Jesus as the perfect, God, the Son of God, basically. And, but he also took on a human body. When you're in a human body, you are also susceptible to things of this world. But we felt that she definitely had such an impact on him. And that's part of the things that we wanted to explore, is the type of impact that she had at him and what it is that she probably imparted to him just as he imparted to her.
That's huge. Do you think that also we're more connected to that because the female empowerment movement, it's like there'll be some pieces of that teaching, even if she originally imparted her wisdom to him, which affected him, impacted him, and affected his teaching, but to be able to connect with it as seen coming from, rooted or stemmed in some sort of divine feminine or woman, will impact more people now to be able to see it from that source?
I think what most people...
Sorry, that was a little whack.
No, that was good.
I hope you're picking up what I'm putting
Can you stay another hour?
Yeah.
That was a good question, and which brought up, I'll try and say it. Let me think. I can't give away the movie, so it's a bit difficult. Yeah. But in that period too, we forget that it's near Egypt, it's near different countries. So therefore, people in where she was, where they were born, they also knew about other religions and other concepts, or darker statues or stuff like that. So she understood all that also. She wasn't just, I've just learned Christianity, I just learned Jesus. She knew all the different kinds of religions she was studying. ISIS, all that. So we forget that. Just as we today can know about all the different religions, get it on the computer. That's very helpful for us to learn about ourselves through those different religions. So they did too. So it changes the concept of, it's just Christianity. Sure, for sure. It opens it up.
No, it is, and it's amazing to also, I'm not sure.
They can incorporate it.
I'm not sure what the sources are from, looking at her, I'm not educated on that, but it seems pretty universal now, people that are talking about her these days and that have researched it. So she was from a wealthy family. She did have the means to be studying and traveling the world studying and doing all these things. So it's really, it's like you say,
they were open. He knew he studied all different things himself, which has been eliminated. Yeah. He would have studied also.
He studied all those, and traveled. That's what I heard too. Studied with the Druids, did all those things. I heard that.
The Druids were big, yeah. It's true.
Yeah, because there was true. Even the Bible acknowledges that there was a huge, and even when I went to Christian churches back then, they acknowledge there's a chunk of his life for like 10 years. Nobody knew what happened. And I've asked people in church, I was like, wait, so you guys don't know? But they're like, no, it's just blank. And I'm like, oh, come on. Like, really? Nobody knows what he did during those? That's a long time span.
At least they admit that rather than trying to like make up some sort of thing.
That's true.
That's what I would expect. That's what I would expect.
You're right. I think there's more things will be dug up. I think as things are rising and we're finding, the ice are melting in the Antarctic, so we're going to see more things arrive that we didn't know about, another pyramid or something. We're going to rethink the past again. So this is more things will come up. I think our movie will have something to do with it.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to like for it to get made.
And that's just a little bit of it. There's a whole different thing we've got with it, but we can't tell you.
Yeah, we put in a lot of special, unique things in this film that no one's ever done before.
There are dream sequences, I'll tell you that. There's dream sequences that kind of go different places.
Oh my God, it's going to be, oh my goddess. It's going to be amazing. Yeah. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to share about that we didn't get to talk about today?
I can't think of anything.
I don't think we really have
you've done a great
that.
job. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we pretty much said what we were allowed to say.
Just get a hold of it. Just get a hold of us.
Yeah, definitely.
We have to find you, so we'll put all the Instagram tags. But what is it? Lapis Tiger?
It's you can follow me on Instagram at Lapis_Tiger because someone took my other username and I couldn't get that one. So Lapis_Tiger.
Yeah.
You can contact me there, and again, you can contact the store as well to get our contact information.
Oh, yes, and I'll tell you, the painting will be in the movie. It's a big part of the movie, so I can tell you that. But I'm not going to show it.
That's so exciting.
But it's going to be put into the film.
That's amazing. And then for anybody else that is in the meantime, because people that are clicking on this episode, a lot of them, if they're finding it, they're actually searching for Mary Magdalene. But what are your favorite resources for anybody that in the meantime, until your film is out there, where do we go? What
can I give you those after though? Because I'd like to write the exact names.
Amazing.
And I would definitely do that.
So right now, if you're listening, they're in the notes. Just scroll down.
I'm going to give them to you.
Beautiful. Yeah. We'll put them all in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Lapis Tiger, Alan Clancy. My name's Rebekah Muir.
Thank you.
And cheers, you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Happy Divine Feminine Rising.
Yeah.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this conversation, like it, subscribe, and share it with your friends. If you want some more amazing resources on your path of liberation, head over to liberateyourself.com and sign up for our mailing list. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram at Liberate Hollywood, all one word, or Liberate Emporium, all one word. Until next time, liberate yourself. If you're thinking that you want to take that action step, why wait? Book your session right now. Go to liberateyourself.com, click on either Liberate Hollywood or Liberate Emporium, see our amazing practitioners and who resonates most with you. And then book a session via Skype, phone, or in person. We're here for you, and it's your time to start creating your life.